There is someone in your life who knows exactly how to throw you off. They don't shout, they don't threaten, they don't even say anything obviously cruel. They provoke reactions, a look, a tone, a comment that makes you second guess yourself. And once you react, even subtly, the balance shifts. Manipulation doesn't begin with control, it begins with response. And learning to manage that response is one of the most practical forms of personal development there is, because it shows up in real conversations, not just self-reflection. Today I need to show you how to remove that response calmly, clearly, and without becoming someone you're not. Why reaction is the real weak point here. Because most people think manipulation succeeds because the other person is powerful. That's not true. It succeeds because reactions are predictable. Your body tightens, your voice changes, your explanations get longer. And all of that information tells the other person exactly where the leverage is. This is where communication skills matter most, not in what you say, but in how you regulate yourself when the pressure's subtle. This isn't a character flaw, it's a nervous system reflex. But once you understand that manipulation feeds on visible engagement, the strategy changes. You stop trying to defend yourself. You start managing access. And this is where most people accidentally give manipulation exactly what it wants. The power of emotional neutrality. The most disruptive thing you can do in a manipulative exchange is to remain emotionally unreadable. Not cold, not rude, just neutral. Neutrality removes feedback. Short responses, minimal expression, no justification. You're not withholding emotion to punish anyone. You're simply choosing not to broadcast it. That's a communication skill most people were never taught because it's internal before it's verbal. That alone unsettles manipulative behavior because it relies on confirmation. When there's nothing to work with, the behavior often collapses on its own. Once you stop reacting emotionally, manipulation has to change tactics. How to handle questions that aren't really questions. Manipulative questions aren't designed to be answered. They're designed to position you. Questions like, why are you always so sensitive? Don't you think you're overreacting? Why can't you just let it go? These aren't invitations to dialogue. They're pressure points. The mistake most people make is trying to clarify. Instead, you disengage from what they're trying to pull you into. You pause, you redirect, or you don't respond at all. You don't owe thoughtful answers to questions that weren't asked in good faith. That's not avoidance. That's knowing when to engage. And when pressure stops working, it usually turns into persistence. Boundaries that don't invite negotiation. Weak boundaries sound like explanations. Strong boundaries sound complete. The more reasons you give, the more openings you create. Every explanation gives the other person something to argue with. A calm, consistent boundary doesn't argue for legitimacy. It assumes it. This is where personal development stops being about insight and starts being about behavior. How consistently you act on what you already know. I'm not available. That doesn't work for me. I'm not continuing this conversation. Same message, same tone, every time. When boundaries don't change, pressure loses its purpose. But what happens when boundaries are ignored? Why distance is a form of communication. Sometimes the clearest message isn't spoken at all. When someone repeatedly ignores limits, the response isn't escalation, it's distance. Less availability, slower responses, fewer invitations. Not as punishment, but as information. Access is relational currency. When it decreases, behavior often adjusts. And if it doesn't, you've learned something important. And this is where manipulation either loses power or reveals its real purpose. The one thing manipulation can't survive. Manipulation depends on dependency. When your sense of worth, connection, or stability comes primarily from one person, influence grows. But when your life is full, when you have purpose, relationships, interests, and direction, manipulation has nowhere to attach. You're no longer easy to pull off center, not because you're tougher, but because you're anchored. Here's the truth most people miss. Manipulative dynamics don't end because you win an argument. They end because you stop participating in the pattern. You don't need to confront. You don't need to expose. You don't need to explain. You regulate, you respond intentionally, you protect your attention. And over time, one of two things happens. The behavior changes or the person fades out of influence. Both outcomes are clarity. That's not dominance. That's mindful communication. This is what real communication skills look like in practice, and how personal development actually changes your life, not just your thinking. If this helped you see manipulation differently, the next video goes deeper into the language side of this, the exact words people use to shift blame, avoid accountability, and quietly control conversations. That video, this one here, will help you recognize manipulation change before you even feel it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you online soon.